Okay, so welcome to Chapter 8 of our course, where we're going to be learning about the different inbuilt array methods in JavaScript, different methods we can use on arrays. So over the next few tutorials, we'll learn about some of the different methods, such as map, reduce, filter, etc. But first, I want to show you the forEach method. So we've seen previously how we can iterate over an array. Maybe we have an array of numbers, we'll say let grades be equal to, and just throw in some numbers here, okay? So we've seen previously that, well, first of all, 15 is a very low grade. We're good teachers, so no one got below 40. So we've seen previously how we can use a for loop to iterate over an array. All we need to do is we use the for keyword. We have some sort of counter variable. We'll say let I be equal to 1. We're going to run our loop while some condition is true. We'll say while I is less than grades, the array dot length. Of course, after each iteration, you want to increment I, your counter variable, to avoid being stuck in an infinite loop. And all you need to do is just console.log out grades, the array we're iterating over, at index I. Okay. So the first time our code runs, we're going to run while grades is at index 0. Okay. So if you were to log out to the console, let me just show you this. Console.log grades at index 0, what's going to happen is you're going to log out at 45. Grades at index 1 then will be 60. Grades at index 2 will be 89, etc. So what we can do is use a for loop to iterate over each element of the array. So if I save and refresh, we see here we get our different elements of the array, those values logged out to the console. But there's a different way you can do this. So let me just comment that out, okay, and just refresh, get our console empty. Awesome. What you can do is you can actually use the inbuilt forEach method. So what you do is you take the array, whatever array you want to iterate over, you type out the array name, then what you do is you access whatever inbuilt method you're looking to do. So it is the forEach method. And we know we need to use parentheses to call or invoke it. And then what you do is you actually need to pass in what's known as a callback function. So you're going to pass in a function, okay? And this function is going to be, so you're going to pass in a function as an argument. And this function is going to essentially run or fire for each element in the array. People get very intimidated by the term callback function, but I'll show you the syntax. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty straightforward. All you need to do is just say grades dot forEach, okay? So forEach, we have our parentheses, and all you need to do then is just pass in a function. And what's going to happen with the function is it's going to run for each grade in the grades array. Okay, so all we need to do is just say console.log grade. Okay, typically people do this with an arrow function, so I'll show you the syntax for that as well. But now what's going to happen is if we refresh our page, we see here we've actually logged out all of the different grades inside of our array. So we actually didn't need to write a for loop and have a counter variable and increment over, etc. All we did was we just wrote out the array name, used dot notation to access the forEach method, and we passed in a function. And this function is going to fire or run for each element of the array. So what we do is we just define each item that we're iterating over. So I called it grade. So do you know the way previously we pass in an argument to a function, we define a parameter, and then you just reference that within the function? It's the same concept. So grade, basically, grade is the parameter, or it's a reference to each one of these, and it's going to fire, the function's going to fire it for each element of the array. So you notice here, I don't know how many elements are in the array. If we were to add 85, for example, at the end, if I save and refresh, we're also going to see 85 logged out to the console. The key point is that with the forEach method, when you pass in the function, this callback function is going to run or fire for each element in the array. Now, what you can do as well is you don't need to do the function keyword. You can just pass in an arrow function. So you can have grade like so, and then just do your little equal sign chevron. Okay, so that will still work, and this is very popular syntax. So I know it looks a bit weird the first time you see it, but what we're doing is on our grades array, so it's grades dot forEach, we have our opening parentheses and our closing parentheses, and what we're doing is we're actually passing in a function we're passing in a function. It's a callback function. It's going to fire for each element of the array. We're passing that into the inbuilt forEach method, and all we're doing is for each grade in the array, we are simply logging out the grade to the console. One thing to note as well is that because there's only one argument passed in, you could, if you wanted, actually just delete the parentheses around that, and that should still work if we don't get an error, and that still works. For the remainder of this chapter, I won't actually be doing that syntax. I think it's a bit confusing, intimidating when you first see it. This is a beginner's JavaScript course, so I'm going to use basically the double parentheses there at the start, because really this is the opening parentheses for the forEach method, and then of course we can see here clearly that we're just passing in a function, and that is the grade argument that's been passed in. And remember, grade, it's really just a reference to each item or element in our grades array up here. Awesome. So that is the forEach method in JavaScript. It can be used to iterate over an array of values, and it expects to receive a function passed in as an argument. And you don't have to do just console.log. You could do something more interesting if you wanted. Maybe, for example, you're going to take each grade and just do something with it. Maybe manipulate the numbers, add on 10% or something like that. Okay, that's awesome. I'll see you in the next tutorial.